Hello everybody, we're playing an 1850 point game of Warhammer 40k. I'm going to be using ITC Scenario 6. This is sort of a few games we're going to be getting in just before the Las Vegas Open, which is this week. So while it's probably going to look pretty redundant, I'm going to be playing quite a bit of Genestealer Cult because I'm trying to refine my list just before I get to go. I thought it'd be fun to pit them up against a list that I think will be actually quite difficult for them and is going to be one of their weaknesses when I play in a tournament. Specifically a list with a lot of flyers. So in this case, they're going to be pitted up against a Tyranid army list with 5 flyrants. I've changed my Genestealer Cult list a bit, and I'm going to review it. I wanted to focus more on objectives secured, particularly with the ITC and Maelstrom objectives being really important. I'm curious to see how they're going to play against a list that they really can't interact with very much. So let's take a look at the lists. Okay, so over here we've got 1850 points of Tyranids. We have 2 CADs. Each of the CADs have 2 flyrants with regen, and then of course the 2 devourers with brain leech worms. And then each of the CADs have 2 units of troops with warriors. They have devourers, and then there's 1 barb strangler in each of the units. And then we have a third formation over here. Well, this is the Sky Tyrant formation out of the Leviathan book, and in it includes a flyrant with 2 units of the gargoyles there, but they all travel as 1 unit, and the flyrant can only count as a jumping monstrous creature, I believe. Alright, so we've got 1850 points of Genestealer Cult. Again, this is the list I'm considering to take to the LVO. I'm pretty excited about it. This is going to be my first big tournament. So while the Decurion detachment or insurrection detachment for the Genestealer Cult, I think it's probably the more competitive route to go with these guys, just because of all the respawning when they go into the shadows. I wanted to do something that might be a little bit easier to, to maneuver around in a big tournament setting. But I think it could also be pretty competitive, so I'm going to try this out here. So what I've got is 2 CADs, and in the CAD I've got 4 of the acolyte leaders there, the ones that confer the feel no pain. So each of the CADs have 2, and then in each CAD there is 3 units of the acolyte hybrids. All of them are kitted out with hand flamers, so in total there's 6 units. And then one of the CADs has a 20-man unit of pure strain Genestealers, and then there's another 3 units of aberrants with the hammers. The idea is that those 3 units will be followed along by those acolytes that will give them a bonus to their feel no pain, so they'll have a 4-up feel no pain. And then in the CAD as well, as part of a heavy, I've got a Lehman Russ, and that will help me take down some higher armor things. And then as a third formation I have the first curse, so a 20-man unit of pure strain Genestealers with the Patriarch, which is going to be the warlord for this this army. So anyways, this is 1850 points of Genestealer Cult. The idea here is that I'll be able to take advantage of the objective secured, having used 2 CADs. This is something that in my last games with Genestealer Cult I did not have. Now, while Genestealers have great mobility, if you don't have objective secured and you're sitting down on an objective with your opponent who does have objective secured, then it doesn't really matter. You're not scoring that objective. So anyways, we'll see how this works out. I'm playing against Tyranids, not necessarily one of the more competitive armies, but they have 5 flyrants, and that's going to be a real problem for my Genestealers because they really don't have any way to hit any flyers. So I'm curious to see how this game plays. I wanted to try this list out against one of their weakness areas, so we'll see. Alright, so we've got the board set up here. Again, this is going to be Dawn of War deployment. We're playing ITC Mission 6, so the primary is going to be Crusade. The Tyranids are going to be on this side of the board. The Genestealer Cult are going to be on that side of the board. The Tyranids place their 2 objectives. Their first objective is right there. Their number 2 is right back there. Genestealer Cult place their number 3, which is going to be right back here. And then their number 2, which is going to be right over here. So we'll go ahead and roll off to see who gets to deploy first. Okay, so we've set up here. Now, the Tyranids set up first because they are going to be going first, and they went ahead and put everything out on the board. It's looking like, with the strategy of keeping the Genestealer cult from being able to cult ambush anywhere kind of near their backfield, but of course, they're also already holding down Objective 1 and got a pretty clear shot at Objective 2 if they decide, if they need to go for it. The Genestealer cult also deployed, and not too much came out. Now, because I am not using the Insurrection Detachment, not everything has infiltrate, which means they can't use the cult ambush coming directly in. Of course, the Genestealers, they can, because they have infiltrate. So the first curse unit back there, they rolled a 5, and so they just came and are going to hold down their Objective 1 down there. I also put the Leman Russ out, as well as one unit of the Acolytes, just to really hold down that back objective. I also put one of the Icon Wards out there so that he could give the Genestealers Feel No Pain, or that 6-up Feel No Pain anyways. The other Genestealer unit also rolled a 5, and they're just going to hang out back here in case I need to go for 2, the Objective Maelstrom 2. So anyways, we're going to go to the C's roll and see if the Genestealers can pull off a 6. And when you have it, the Genestealers rolled a 6. They get... No, I'm just kidding. I gotta roll it. Okay, they got a 3. They don't seize. Tyranids get to go first. Turn 1. So the Tyranids finished up their turn 1. They moved up. Most of the Hive Tyrants, they flew up. And those two put on the hurt with those Genestealers back there. I think they killed about 11 Genestealers, even with the invul saves. And this guy just kind of moved up again because he's part of that formation. He's only able to move 12 inches a turn because he has to stay in like gliding so he can stay with all those gargoyles. Tyranids are trying to hold Objective 1 and 2. That's their Maelstroms for the turn. Those other two flyrants flew up, and this one here did quite a bit of damage to those Genestealers back there. I think took maybe like 7 or so of them off. And again, they're rolling both invuls and a 6-up Feel No Pain. And that was about it. They tried to cast some powers. I think they tried... they did cast Paroxysm back here. And so they're like... Actually, I think their weapon skill and is it ballistic skill by 3? Like, it's D3, but they rolled a 6. So I think it's... they're hurting there. But anyways, so we'll see what the Genestealers can do as we go to their turn 1. Okay, so Genestealer Cult turn 1 is in the bag. Not much happened. So the Pure Strain Genestealers back here went into the shadows. So they are going to come back on through reserves, hopefully soon, but they didn't want to get shot up by those tyrants again. This is a bad matchup for me, for Genestealer Cult, so I'm just trying to make do with what I can. I know I can't really do much to those Hive Tyrants, so trying to keep out of their way as much as I can. My Maelstrom, I rolled pretty poorly. Actually needed to kill 2 units, and wasn't really within range to do very much. So over here, those Genestealers are just kind of bubble wrapping that Icon Ward back there, and the other Acolytes. They decided to stay on the board. I think I should be safe for a turn. I don't think I'll get tabled. The Hive Tyrants, obviously, they're going to do a lot of wounds, but I don't think they're going to eat through everything. And also that Leman Russ with the 14-13 armor makes it pretty difficult to get off the board. The Leman Russ did do some shooting, actually shot down on the warriors there. Was really hoping to kill that unit and knock them off the objective, of course, so that would have taken the Tyranids down to only scoring 1 Maelstrom and then giving me 1 Maelstrom, so I actually would have tied the first turn, but didn't happen. Unfortunately, just some bad rolling for the blast table there. Was able to kill one of the warriors, but wasn't able to get those other 2 off that objective. And of course, they're fearless, so they're not going to run. But anyways, we'll go on to Tyranids turn 2. Don't count Genestealer Cold out just yet. I know it looks real bad right now, but most of the army is still in reserves, so we'll see what they can do. Alright, so that's Tyranid turn 2, and they did pretty well. So what they did for Maelstrom, they needed to be in the Genestealer Cult deployment zone. Clearly, they got that pretty locked up. And they also needed to kill an enemy unit. In this case, these 2 tyrants back here, they were able to kind of fly back and put the hurt on these units back here. So they killed, I think, another 6 or 7 Genestealers. Clearly I'm down to just a handful there. And then they took out those Acolyte hybrids, so that was the unit they did kill. So Genestealers don't have like almost anything on the table. Hopefully, as they go into turn 2, they roll pretty well on reserves, because they got quite a bit held back in reserves right now. And so the game is not over yet, but this is proving to be a pretty tough matchup. Okay, so that's Genestealer Cult turn 2. And their Maelstrom was to hold down objective 1 and to kill an enemy unit. We did roll for reserves. Quite a few of the Genestealers that were in reserves actually were able to come back on and then use Cult Ambush to jump on the board. No 6s were rolled, so none of that first turn charge type stuff. But anyways, I've got a bunch of the Acolyte hybrids over here holding down objective 1 so that they can try to get that Maelstrom. I think that they should be pretty safe since there's only 2 Tyrants over here. And then I did get a 5 on one of the ambushes for the Acolyte hybrids, and they tried to come up and flame those warriors there, but just totally failed. Didn't roll any hits or any wounds. And then on the shooting phase, when they got to shoot again, same, they didn't get any wounds, so it was pretty pathetic. But what was good was during the psychic phase, the Patriarch here actually was able to cast Mind Control on the purple Tyrant, and the Tyrant then got to make a shooting attack, which of course he shot his fellow Tyrant over there that's also flying, and that flyrant took 3 wounds, and so that was pretty productive then for the Genestealers here. Now, I didn't kill a unit, so I'm not going to get that Maelstrom, but it looks like I'll probably at least be able to hold down number 1 there. And I think with all the Genestealers back on the board, we're kind of back in it, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, so Tyranid turn 3 is over. The Hive Tyrants that were over here flew that way to just destroy the Genestealers that were in that back corner. So as far as their Maelstrom, they needed to hold objective 1 and 2. So they are on 1 with 2 units. They tried to make their way up to objective 2 here. They do have the warriors that are holding that down right now. But we'll see if the Genestealers can knock them off by next turn. They tried to make it over to this one, but couldn't quite make it. They're just outside that 3-inch range. So there's a possibility they might only be able to grab 1 Maelstrom. Now, they did grab Slay the Warlord, unfortunately. So if we look over here, Warlord Patriarch went down. These 2 Hive Tyrants just blasted that unit of Genestealers and then took down the Patriarch with pretty much ease. That's a big wound to the Genestealer cult. And then we have those 2 other Hive Tyrants coming this way as well. So kind of trapped myself. So this was a good learning experience. I mean, it's a bad matchup, and I probably played it poorly. I'll have to reflect on how this game went and try to learn from it. But anyways, we're going to go ahead, move to Genestealer Cult turn 3. Had quite a bit of movement occur during this turn. Not a lot of action. Again, most of the units over here were getting just demolished by those flyrants. So the units that were still alive and within, outside 6 inches from those flyrants, I went ahead and pulled them off the board, put them into ongoing reserves. Hopefully they'll be in better position next turn to start preparing for Crusade. I did have another unit of Aberrants pop on the board, as well as these Genestealers. Both of them, the Genestealers rolled a 1, so they just came on. Just kind of space these units out a little bit to make it a little more challenging for the Flyrants to get in the backfield as far as movement goes. Had another unit of Aberrants come on right here as well. Again, they just had to be outside 6 inches from the warriors there, so they're just hanging out. And the Maelstrom for Genestealer Cult this turn was to hold objective 2 and be in my enemy's deployment zone. So I've got 2 aberrant units in the Tyranids deployment zone. And then actually the one piece of action that did happen over here, of course there were 3 warriors that were originally right there. And I guess there was 2 that were surviving anyways. So those acolytes that came in flamed the warriors, I think put a wound or so on them, and then charged them, and in the assault they did plenty of wounds, took out the rest of the warriors. The warriors struck at the same initiative though, so they killed off 3 of the acolytes, but I am currently holding objective 2 right now. We'll see if we can keep that down for a turn. So we're going to move to Tyranids turn 4, and we'll see if the Genestealer Cult can keep their head above water. Okay, so this was Tyranids turn 4, and they are trying to put the nail in the Genestealer Cult coffin. So as far as Maelstrom, they needed to hold objective 1. They are doing so right there. They also need to have, they need to be in my deployment zone, the Genestealer Cult. They're doing that just fine. So as you can see, this one unit, this is that one formation with that gliding Hive Tyrant. They're just kind of scattered across the board here, and just trying to, I think, probably jump on that objective and keep me from moving around as easily. So this game has definitely taught me that, you know, and I know this, but flying Hive Tyrants are freaking ridiculous. Their shooting is just so strong against the units like these. I mean, Genestealer Cult is just kind of like butter to them, particularly since I really can't hit them back. So you can see they came back here, cleaned up just basically everything else. Now I will say that one unit survived and took just enough wounds to take a leadership check, and then sure enough failed the leadership and rolled a 12 to go off the board. And then down here, those aberrants, they also took quite a few casualties, took a leadership check, failed it, and now they're falling back. They can potentially regroup though. They still have a character there. And then unfortunately these warriors killed off one of the acolyte hybrids that was on objective 2, so that guy took a test, of course failed it, rolled a 9, so then he's flying back. So the Genestealer Cult is just taking tons of wounds and then failing a lot of their checks. I can't say I'm really surprised, just because I know this is a pretty rough matchup for them, with 5 flyrants just wrecking havoc on them. But I was hoping that with the Maelstrom objectives that I would have a better chance. But I've rolled pretty poorly for Maelstrom as of current. So anyways, we'll go to turn 4 Genestealers. So we're at the end of Genestealer Cult turn 4, and at this point, their Maelstrom was to hold objective 2 and kill an enemy unit, but quite honestly, this far in the game, I am pretty much abandoning the Maelstrom objectives and just trying to prepare for the primary, which is Crusade. And to do that, I'm trying to get myself in a position to kill off his objective secured units. And so I did have that unit back there of the Acolyte hybrids come on. They rolled a 1, so they just had to sit back there. Hopefully they won't get shot off the table next turn. Probably will. And then moved the Lehman Russ, who's been pretty useless this game, just missing a lot of shots, but trying to get him in a place so that he might be able to kill off those warriors right there. And anyways, a lot happened right over here. So the aberrants moved up. These aberrants regrouped, and then those acolytes came on. They rolled a 5, so they shot twice into the warriors right there. They ended up putting a wound on them. That aberrant and acolyte icon ward failed the charge, so they didn't get in. And then over here I had a group of acolytes that came on, and they rolled a 6, and so they were able to charge this unit of warriors here. This unit of aberrants also charged. But anyways, the warriors and the acolyte hybrids attacked at the same initiative. They ended up killing each other. And anyways, those aberrants are now on objective 1. This guy back here has not passed his insane heroism test, and so continues to fall back. So there's not much for Genestealer Cult left on the board. I do have 1 unit of acolyte hybrids and a leader off the board that will come on turn 5. We'll see if it's enough to get the primary, but right now, Tyranids are winning. Alright, so that was the Tyranid turn 5, and we're going to call it here because Genestealer Cult is darn near tabled. I was hoping that those aberrants might be able to hold out, but the warriors that were here shot into them, charged. Of course, these flyrants all moved up, took out everything that was over in this corner for the Genestealer Cult, and then wiped out those aberrants, and that's pretty much game. I do have a couple units. I just have an Acolyte hybrid unit and that leader there that could come on the board next turn, but that's not going to be enough to jump on all enough objectives to take the primary. So we decided to call it here and give some mercy to the little Genestealers. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I did want to try my Genestealer Cult list up against a list that was going to be a real bad matchup for them, and it turned out to be just that. I think part of it too was the mission type with Crusade, and the Maelstrom. There was a lot of kill enemy units. I kept rolling that, so I mean that was partly just kind of bad luck on my part. Keep rolling 3 and 4s where I need to kill an enemy unit, and that was kind of difficult for me. But anyways, I do like the list. I'm going to keep trying it out against some other matchups. We'll see how they do. I do plan on taking it to the LVO. I don't by any means plan on winning the LVO or have any delusional thoughts that I'll make the top 8, but I do want to go have fun, and hopefully some of you might be there as well. If you're playing Genestealer Cult, of course, good luck to you. And if you're playing a Tyranid army, even more luck should go to you. While the Genestealer Cult lost in devastating fashion during this game, I will say it does seem to at least match the fluff. In this case, the Genestealers sent up their signal calling forth the Tyranid Leviathan to come down upon them, in which they were then consumed. Thank you to everybody that watched this video and liked it. If you'd like to see some more Warhammer 40k videos in the future, please feel free to click the subscribe. And to those going to the LVO, have fun and good luck.